Quinten Epting is a forward-thinking DevOps engineer at Frontsight VC and a Cyber Intelligence Analyst at ZeroFox, blending deep technical expertise with a robust background in cybersecurity. With an educational background, including a BA in Criminology and a MS in Criminal Justice with a focus in forensic psychology from Liberty University, and practical experience in both law enforcement and military operations, Quinten brings a unique perspective to technology and security. His work involves leveraging AI to enhance cyber intelligence capabilities and optimizing cloud infrastructure, ensuring high security and compliance standards. Now, here is Quinten.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the introduction. What we're going to be hitting today is driving investigations with AI assistance. The generative AI craze has kind of taken over. I guess probably almost the past year and a half, 2 years now. And I initially got super interested in it and was curious of how can this make things better. Initially, I was trying to replace myself. That was the idea behind it. And I quickly changed course, and I realized that the better use of AI is to augment an analyst, not replace them. And so that's kind of the 1,000-mile view of this talk. So who am I? Currently, I'm a DevOps engineer at a Frontsight venture capital firm. More so on the actual developer. I build things. I usually try to find niche use cases and find a way to solve them. I like to think of myself as like a big picture problem solver. And as the world gets more confusing sometimes, I think the bigger problems are the most fun ones to solve. In my day job, I'm a cyber intelligence analyst at ZeroFox, performing OSINT investigations for various clients in various realms within the OSINT space. Educational background, I have a BA in Criminology from the University of South Carolina and my master's from Liberty University in criminal justice with a focus into forensic psychology. My background is pretty varied. I've been in a lot of different spaces, from the military, police, civilian law enforcement, corrections, as well as private investigations in the pharmaceutical industry, anti-money laundering, mortgage fraud investigations, and some time as a FedRAMP consultant. And I guess I really got the technology bug. That's what we want to say, about 6 years ago. I was working at PwC, and they were asking if anyone would be interested in learning Python, and I just kind of took to it. And the more I learned about coding, the more I wanted to learn about it, and it kind of branched into different areas. And most recently, I was like, I think there might be a different way to do things, and so I started exploring the full development or the full stack development lifecycle, HTML, JavaScript, CSS, things like that. All of that to say that I have a grab bag of experience, and Dr. Kim is correct. I suffer from imposter syndrome, which I imagine a lot of people do. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask when that time comes, and I'll do my best to answer them. Quick disclaimer, views and opinions expressed in this presentation are my own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of my employers, past or present. So we're going to start the presentation with a use case. I'll kind of show one of the tools I've built, kind of why I built it, and how any analyst kind of pick it up and make it their own. And then we'll kind of get into why an analyst would want to augment their investigations with generative AI. And then kind of move into Google Apps Script and Google Colab. These are just two tools that I kind of picked that I personally use to, I guess, to augment my investigations, right? Like time is one thing that we can't get back. And so anything that you can do to shave 5-10 minutes off an investigation adds up, especially once you think that if you have multiple analysts working on multiple investigations and you're able to save 5 or 10 minutes, it adds up. And then I would be amiss if I didn't go into how you can find some custom GPTs on the GPT store. It's not a plug for OpenAI, just that they kind of made pretty easy for anyone to kind of build GPTs. And then we'll end up with a Q&A. So this is kind of my little sense of humor. Like I said, initially when I got into generative AI, the idea was that I wanted it to replace me so that I can do other things. I wanted to use it as a way to save me time on anything and everything, and then I could free up and do other things. And surely there are use cases where that is the case, but not in investigations, as you need to have human oversight for all of it. And so they may take over one day, but I don't see that day happening anytime soon. So like I said, we'll kind of run into the use case, and the hope is that it saved.
This is Chatter, a custom AI chatbot that I built utilizing the OpenAI GPT-4o, as well as a Pinecone vector database. I wanted to demonstrate a use case for individuals who wanted to create their own custom AI tools to help with their workflows. For me personally, I am always looking on how to save time in an investigation. Time is the one thing that we can't really ever get back. And so that was kind of the brainchild for Chatter. This use case is providing in-depth instructions for completing a person of interest investigation. I am looking into the TTPs of threat actors who perform social engineering attacks. So this is going through basically leveraging the custom prompt that I built out and providing the analyst a heads up on their research, or a good starting point for research. I believe AI tools really should augment the analyst, not replace them. And so I wanted to, in building the prompt, is kind of built upon that premise, is that I want to help augment, not replace. And I like having, I guess, paper copies or things that I can reference later on. And I have this chatbot to kind of clear out the cache on each reset. And so you can go through, just download your PDF, and it gives you your chat history, and you can copy and paste this into other tools or other reports, or however it is that your investigations is going to be set up. This is just like a simple use case on just some of the ways to kind of leverage the AI tools in your workflow. This one's specific to trying to understand the TTPs related to social engineering and those type of attacks.
Like I said, more than happy to answer any questions on that once we get towards later on in the presentation. Okay, so the why. Why is this important? Why in today's landscape does it matter? So investigations at the beginning, before the technology evolution, holy smokes, it included going down and doing what we consider the old detective work, right? Like you have to go and scour newspapers, talk to people, try to create those connections through the physical act of going and doing. And then with digital technology, investigations kind of took on a different I don't want to say flavor, but flavor, right? It created a whole other aspects of investigations. And now you have this different aspect of open source intelligence. Now we have SOCMET, we have ways that we can pull from satellites. We have insert like a lot of the other different like avenues, and I apologize, my brain's kind of farting on that one. But with the modern technology, why wouldn't we continue to evolve? Like we've evolved from the beginning. We continue to evolve from when technology was introduced. Now let's continue it. We have these tools of generative AI. Let's augment our investigative workflows to incorporate them. With these tools, like with generative AI, encoding assistants, and things of this nature, we're able to create these web scrapers that are now able to pull in and aggregate more data. Because on the flip side of that, threat actors, or really anyone, is now using these tools to create more data. There's no way that we're ever going to be able to get every piece of information for an investigation. It's just not plausible. But leaving stuff out there when it's a possibility to pull it in, that's kind of where the ask is, right? Like, as an investigator, I want to make sure that I have as much information at the time to do my analysis to make that information into intelligence. Otherwise, I'm not doing my due diligence. And so this kind of gets back to the efficiency aspect, right? Like, there's such a huge volume of data out there. It's a personal journey to be as efficient as we can. We have to take this information, parse it down, and get the stuff that matters. And so leveraging these AI tools help with that, right? As long as you can understand that they're not perfect, that you have to verify, using them as a tool, not as an end-all be-all. And like I said, it's one of those things that's taken me a while to try to figure out that happy medium. And so you have to kind of like lean into the uncomfortable. But once that happens, you're able to kind of realize how much faster you're able to produce reports. You're able to produce intelligence. You're able to produce visuals. Really, any aspect of an investigation can be augmented with these tools. So this just kind of goes over some of the challenges that we've seen, or that I've had during traditional investigations when I was in traditional law or civilian law enforcement, or even in military law enforcement. The manual data collection, I was not tech savvy. And so there's a lot of this that just wasn't known to me. Not that it wasn't available, because when I was in civilian law enforcement, social media was a huge thing, right? It was only a couple, like 6 or 7 years ago. But I had no idea. I didn't know that you could scrape data. I didn't know that you could track these criminals in your area by like location. These things that just, you don't know what you don't know. And so that's kind of like one of the areas I'm trying to focus in or trying to work with, is because every investigator can be better. There's no investigator that's 100% perfect all the time. And so knowing what you are trying to learn, what you don't know, is what's important, and these tools can assist with that. So had I had the tools that I built with Chatter 10 years ago, I would be able to understand how these criminal networks work, how to connect the dots in different pieces, how to search the dark web, what the dark web even is. Like, these are tools that, yes, you can go out and research them. That is fact. Like, we can go out and we can go to different GitHubs and we can scour the internet, or we can ask a very specific tool a very specific question, and it can give you a very specific response, and cutting down the time it would take to understand what you're looking for. So, not to beat a dead horse, I personally leverage AI to create automations. That's one of the things I really just enjoy doing. Whether it's building a scraper, whether it's connecting to an API, whether it's insert, any other type of automation, it's not going to get it 100% right off the bat. So to build out automations with AI, you kind of have to have some base level of understanding of whether it's Python or JavaScript or whatever it is you're using to fix it. And that was kind of like like I say, one of the things I was trying to do at the beginning is just have it write these scripts. And it can write really basic ones, but building something with a little more gas behind it, it takes a little finesse. But the time it takes to build something when you're using a coding assistant versus not using a coding assistant is, I mean, a savings of hours. Oh, well, I guess I should have waited to this slide. Yep. So like I said, automation is my biggest thing that I use it for. Also, as you've seen with Chatter, I like connecting it to custom web apps. Leveraged it in several different things. Chatter is my first use case specific to like a custom web app with the LLM backend, or I guess LLM API calls. So, and with workflows. So if you're familiar with tools like Zapier or Pipedream or Make, and I'm sure I'm missing some of the other big ones, they allow you to connect automation workflows. And so you're able to plug in LLM, and it's not just OpenAI. They have it for pretty much anything you can connect to with an API. And you're able to synthesize your information from beginning to end. And using those in several of my workflows has saved me. Yeah, absolutely. Kara, if you want to, just you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. My apologies. Yeah, so like I said, being able to synthesize these workflows to be able to pull in information, and like I said, the end goal is to take this information, this raw information, and turn it into intelligence. And so leveraging these workflows has helped cut down on so much time. I want to say I was tracking 2 or 3 different ones I built, and it was saving approximately 20 or 30 hours a week just on the aggregation and transformation of the information. All right, so let's get into the fun stuff. Google Apps Script and Google Colab. There should be slides specific to each, and I apologize, I don't have a copy of the slides in front of me, so we'll just get into it. Google Apps Script. Google Apps Script is a cloud-based scripting language for automating tasks across Google Workspace. And I personally use this exclusively in Google Sheets. In basically, it's like a pseudo JavaScript kind of language. It's based on JavaScript, but Google obviously has their own little spin on it, because I've found that not everything that would work in JavaScript is going to work in AppScript. It's just kind of like a nuance. However, ChatGPT is pretty good with it. So, and that will kind of move into like the custom GPTs and how to find them and how to assist with these creations. Yep. So some use case specific to OSINT investigations for investigators. How can analysts leverage this tool, right? So that's what it's all about. How can you be most efficient? Google Apps Script is really good for fetching data from APIs, really good for parsing RSS feeds. It's a spreadsheet system, so deduplicating data cleansing, data visualizations, those are all things that are inherent with Google Sheets that through using Google Apps Script, you're able to create a more efficient process. And one of the cool things I found when doing research for this presentation is that you can actually monitor YouTube videos for comments. And that's actually within the Google Apps Script docs. And so, yeah. And cool, okay. And this is a pretty good this is a good visualization from Google on how Apps Script works. But for the use of this presentation, probably not super important. Yeah. Okay, and then we'll to Google Colab. Google Colab, if you're familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, is just Google's take on Jupyter Notebooks. And it allows you to execute Python code via the browser, as well as collaborate in real time, sharing notebooks and results. One of the cool things I like about Colab, as compared to like running Python locally, is that collaborative effort. So say you have a team of 15, 20 analysts, and you want to have a collection of scripts that the team has created. You can do that with Colab. Have one Colab, have your main developer, and then share that within your team, and then anyone can go in and copy it and and run those scripts. And it's less ramp up, right? Like you don't have to explain how to use GitHub. You don't have to explain how to use really anything, is because with Colab, you hit a play button and it runs the code. So this is kind of one of those things where how can you be most efficient? If you have one person on your team that understands Python, if you have one person on your team who understands how to connect the data, but you have a bunch of people on your team that are really good with all the other aspects of investigations, then you're able to leverage that one person to make everyone else more efficient. And it's kind of the same thing with AppScript. It's just whether your person's better with Python or JavaScript. So Python or the Colab notebooks, they run on their runtime include most packages. It's not like you have to go through and set up a virtual environment every time you set up Colab. So this also kind of gives, some efficiency. You're able to run things that maybe necessarily you don't have to worry about on your machine, whether you have virtual environments blocked, whether they have Python blocked, whether you're not allowed to download executables. One of the biggest use cases I've seen in leveraging Colab is with a tool called Migret. It's a fork of Sherlock, and it's an amazing tool for using username enumeration. And it runs in Colab. So when you have your normal GUI tool that is down, you can pop into your Colab notebook, run Migret, and everything's perfect, right? Or not perfect, everything runs. So really cool use case. And I guess I'm gonna tie it back to generative AI. How can this help? Chatter. Okay, so what's my name is down. I can't access my usual username enumeration tools. Help me create something in Google Colab that will mimic the use case. I found this tool on GitHub called Migret. Here's the installation and use case, and it can it will create the code you need to run in Colab, which the only real difference is you have to put the exclamation point in front instead of just running pip. And one of the cool things with Python and Google Colab is the data analysis portion. You're able to run graphs. Wow. I've done heat maps. Really, I found with data analysis and data visualization within Python, kind of like your imagination is the limit. It's not as straightforward as something like Tableau or Power BI, because those are just like, drag and drop, or even with Google Sheets where you kind of just click around, but you're able to dial in what it is that you're looking for and what is you're trying to show. I apologize. Okay, and then we'll kind of move into custom GPTs. If you build it, they will come, right? There's no shortage of OSINT assistants out there. And not necessarily just specific to OSINT, right? So let's think if you're looking for, okay, so say you really are interested in Google AppScript. You're like, okay, well, I'd like to learn more about this. There's AppScript GPTs. Google Colab, oh, I really am interested in learning more about Google Colab. How can I leverage this? There's a GPT for Google Colab. Let's say you're really interested in, I'm just going to use Altair. It's a Python package for data visualization, and you're really interested. I'm sure there's something out there specific to that specific Python package, and like any kind of large language model, especially ones like OpenAI or Claude or Gemini, the bigger the model, the more specific you have to be. You have to give it very niche instructions. The more specific your ask, the better result you're going to get from the output. Like it's kind of the old saying, with data cleansing, data in, data out. If you're putting in junk data, then you're going to get junk data out. And this is kind of going over the DIY option. For example, like with Chatter, Chatter is the initial step, like hours before, was based on create llama. It's a llama index on, holy smokes, they have created a package where you can pull it and create your own tool. So when you want to create your DIY option, try to figure out what it is you're trying to solve. Like I said, I knew going into it, I wanted to create an analyst assistant. And so I found data sources that were relevant to OSINT analyst, whether through GitHub, open source PDFs, archive.org. And then also I pulled the Google hacking database, the base of the Google Dork list, and that way it's also integrated into Chatter, because every OSINT analyst knows Google dorking is like your bread and butter. Yep, and then you create your vector embeddings. This was a little interesting because PDFs don't really play well with your traditional vector embeddings, but there are tools out there that will help you turn those PDFs either into Markdown or just vectorize from the PDFs. But it's kind of, you got to play with it depending on what kind of data you're looking for. If all you have are CSVs, well, those are good to go. And then you choose your programming language you're most comfortable with. Personally, my experience is in Python and JavaScript, TypeScript. Go, I believe there's also packages out there in Go. And I'm sure there's a handful of other ones. But for me, since these were the most familiar to me, these are the ones I utilized. Let's see. Streamlit, it's a Python front-end framework that is awesome. It's kind of what got me into web development to start. And if you're even a little bit interested in creating custom tools, definitely check out Streamlit. They have things that you can fork and make your own in no time. Let's see. So this kind of just going to some resources, and if I need to, I can pull these URLs and I can put them in the GitHub that was shared with the email. Yep. So for your app script and Python, some key libraries kind of listed here. I'm not going to read through them, but depending on what you want to do. What I'm trying to say is, when approaching any topic now, like generative AI has kind of leveled the playing field. You don't have to be an expert level developer to build something that's useful for you. So if you have something that and I usually use I wish statements. That's what I always tell the guys I'm building automations for. If you can say, I wish I could do this faster, or I wish there was a way that I could get this information without doing this, then that's where you start with your automation. You start with one piece of it, and when you can automate A to B, then you go from B to C, right? So then now you have your workflow that's completing this task that you had this I wish statement for, at the beginning. This is a link to the GitHub that I shared. And here's some more learning resources for AppScript and Google Colab. I know at the beginning I said that, generative AI is designed to, make everything, the synthesis of information faster. And that's true, but also I'm a nerd and I like reading the actual documentation. So if that's the case and you enjoy reading the documentation, I wanted to provide it. And here's some links to some DIY chatbot options. I have Create Llama in here, as well as some of the Streamlit ones, or a Streamlit one and the Streamlit documentation. All right. So I appreciate it. Thank you. That was I tried to be as succinct as possible and leave enough time for questions. So if anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation to the Cognitive Security Institute. You may learn more about topics in cognitive security by visiting us at cognitivesecurity.institute.